Styx, Hex, and Hammer. My brother from another mother, who, by the way, is rad as shit, and if you haven't subscribed to him yet, you absolutely fucking should. Upon reading a recent poll that stated both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have officially eclipsed Biden in primary polling, made the following point. And I think his point is perfectly valid. He stated that the poll was likely an outlier, and to roughly paraphrase, if Joe Biden's self-evident senility was truly disqualifying, it would have done so years ago. The logic being, you know, Grampy went off the deep end decades ago. People voted for him then, so why wouldn't they now? And I'm not bullshitting when I say that's a perfectly reasonable and even accurate argument. However, I think there are two factors at play that sort of vitiate this assertion, and others like it, and indicate that while the Sanders and Warren totals are a bit on the bullshit side, the placing of the poll itself might not necessarily be an outlier. The first one is, after an unremitting procession of sky-splitting gaffes on the campaign trail, back in 2008, the Obama administration locked Biden away Dan Quayle style. By the end of his 8-year term, Biden was the unopened box of cornstarch at the back of the Obama cabinet. And two, Biden calling himself the return to normalcy is a hard sale when you're forgetting what fucking state you're in every second night.
I've been here a number of times. Last time was, I think, all the way back in 2014, but I've been here before that. I love this place. So look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? What a neat town. I mean, this is sort of a scenic, beautiful town.
Look, it may not persuade voters that he's senile. It may not persuade them that he's a sexist or racist or an aspiring underage massage therapist, but it does not persuade them that he's stable, which is sort of kind of his only abiding chance against the admittedly unstable-seeming Trump. Biden's political zenith came in 2008, when mainstream media still had a modicum of at least perceived credibility, and on Biden's behalf, they used that clout to damage control like the Dickens. In 2010, he gave his condolences to the Prime Minister of Ireland for the death of his mother, who was still very much alive.
God rest her soul, and although your mom's still alive as your dad passed. God bless her soul. I gotta get this straight.
Then there's the more than vaguely racist, finally, a clean-cut black man in Obama episode from 2007.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African-American who was articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy.
And then there was that time on the campaign trail in 2008 that he told a paraplegic to stand for applause. No, you cannot make this shit up.
And I also am told that Chuck Graham, state senator, is here. Chuck, stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal.
Fortunately for Bazooka Joe Biden, mainstream media and the late-night hacks at Comintern Central were there to hold the living hell out of his water. John the Yawn Stewart almost pressed him on the clean-cut Obama remark.
You were quoted as saying, the one lesson I learned from my previous presidential run is words matter. And then you came out with this one. I mean, you got the first mainstream African-American who's articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook man.
Well, let me tell you something. I spoke to Barack today.
I bet you did.
I also spoke to Jesse and Al Sharpton and I also
and Michael
spoke to
Jordan and anybody you could get your hands on.
Before cucking the fuck out to the weakest explanation in U.S. history and even helping him to do damage control in the aftermath.
What I was attempting to be, was not very artfully, is complimentary. This is an incredible guy. This is a phenomenon. This guy is, and look, the other part of this thing is, the word that got me in trouble is using the word clean. I should have said fresh. What I meant is he's got new ideas. He's a new guy in the block.
I'm going to help you out using punctuation. All right, here's what you could do. Throw a period up there right after African American. I mean, you got the first mainstream African American. Boom. Okay. Who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy? I mean, that's a storybook, man.
My point being, the phrase Joe being Joe became a meme for a motherfucking reason. The media invented it, then repeated it ad astra. And now, in 2019, when MSNBC is admitting to not vetting sources and CNN insiders are texting about taking down Trump, No one gives a fuck about the news media's half-assed attempts to ameliorate Biden's political damage.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Poor kids are just as talented, Toulouse, as white kids. The distinction there is they're poor whites, and how do you think that plays there? A gaffe, something more than that, a window to his soul? What do you see?
It's definitely a gaffe.
He's also the version of Joe Biden that says things that are controversial inadvertently, to be sure.
None of this would matter, of course, if he hadn't cast himself as the only stable adult in the room, singularly capable of rolling back the cultural odometer to a time when we strolled through daffodil-strewn dewy meadows, hand in arm with other cultures, mercifully free from our primary healthcare provider. Point being, Biden set the criteria for stability, and he's the one who constantly violates it like a 12-year-old girl on stage with him. And as you can see, it's only intensifying.
Imagine what would have happened if, God forbid, Barack Obama had been assassinated after becoming the de facto nominee. My long time friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life. No dates to your 30. The large, very identifiable Somali community. There's an awful lot of driving cabs and are friends of mine, for real.
Only 15 Somalis live in the entire state, according to the Census Bureau. And Wilmington cab drivers told CNN they knew of no Somalis driving taxis.
We choose truth over facts.
Hell, just this past week, as if putting the exclamation point at the end of his rambling run-on sentence, quote, "If people are concerned about my age, they shouldn't vote for me." Well, there's a new demographic to alienate. Anyone with eyes. Hillary claims certain people would never vote for her because they were in a basket of deplorables. Biden claims certain people will never vote for him because he remembers when baskets were invented. And if you'll permit me to be a shallow little shithead for a moment, can we rap about the plasticine surgery for a spell? Never mind the Cabbage Patch pompadour grafted to his fucking skull. If Ken doll hair plugs are disqualifying, it explains why David Spade doesn't talk politics, but I doubt it's the case for G.I. Joe Biden, who's had a knit sweater weaved to his fucking forehead for a piping hot minute. Not so for the Jim Henson Creature Shop facelift he's rocking. Here's the thing about nips and tucks, my friends. Like everything the fuck else, they age. And so your eye job starts out with a slight squint, progresses to a vaguely Asiatic leer, and finally it looks like you're being flashed by Edgar Winter on the surface of the fucking sun. Not the best look. And that's without addressing the Glasgow smile surgery. Look, people dig the Joker, particularly angsty preteens, mass shooters, and cool dads with cool daughters who have cool restraining orders against their cool baby daddies. All the same, I'm not certain they're entirely ready to vote for the fucking Joker. Vacuous? Sure, but that's politics, princess. Christ's sake, we elected a reality TV star, commander-in-chief. Ask Biden, he was his running mate.
He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault.
Okay, maybe don't ask Biden. Point being, if Biden's criticisms of the present administration are going to be vapid accusations of racism,
He is encouraging white supremacists. You can determine what that means.
against a dude who's probably spent more time fundraising with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson than he has, he can and will be judged by the same utterly insipid criteria. Look, I've long maintained Biden is far from the establishment savior the media has cast him as of late. I even went so far as to say he's being fed to Trump in a somewhat soft election cycle for the left. I could scarcely hold my piss as honest-to-goodness political pundits laughably speculated after the 2016 result that if only we'd run Biden, he'd have carried the day. No, asshole, if only you'd run Biden, you'd be carrying his colostomy. He's too old to appear electable, too erratic to sell the stability angle, and even at its best, to most of America, he was made for the middle of the pack. He had his shot in 2007. He didn't even make the top 3. Suddenly he's called a fucking conqueror. In terms of charisma, we're not talking JFK here. Fuck, we're not even talking Bill Clinton. He's a haggard, hand-wringing politico from a state you could fit inside a Brazil nut. I hate to help out the left, but truly, sincerely, you're better off with Bernie Panders or Chief Running Mouth. Joe Biden is the entire loaf of white bread. He's the Democratic Mitt Romney. Just replace the holy underpants with adult diapers. I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.
Now is the time to heed the timeless advice from Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick
End of quote. I promise you, the president has a big stick.